Welcome to the Authorpreneur. Become a sage of your industry, first session. And from this first slide, you can say that you are the center of your universe. And this comes from Leonardo da Vinci, and it's one of the premises that we're going to be exploring throughout this journey together of becoming an author, yet bringing an entrepreneurial spirit to it. And we'll be looking at ways to share the content that has been passed to you, some of it, because we're going to do a couple of different approaches. One will be to drip feed you with monthly information. And the other, if you would really love to receive all of the content, I can also send all of the content to you. It really is a journey that we're going to be looking upon. And if you received my first letter, I'm going to just quickly go through this because some of you might be experiencing different types of emotions. Some might be excited, some might be nervous, perhaps a little bit sad. And these are all feelings that we have when we're first starting out on a new venture, exploring our writing, our expressing, our communicating. And this is something that I'm really excited about here because the journey of expression can be magical. And I look forward to being part of the unfolding that will be part of your process. In this program, we've put together a number of different ways for you to express yourself. We're going to be using some neurolinguistic programming. We're going to be using perhaps even some hypnosis, exploring your auditory, your kinesthetic, and the best ways for you to learn. And one of the things I'm really excited about is that the content that we've been sharing with you, we're going to share with you, we've been using and we're continuing to fine tune it over the last 7 to 8 years. And the new stuff that I'm going to be introducing and new information that I'll be sharing, I'm definitely looking forward to some of the conversations we'll have during the masterclasses, and then also some of the one-to-one sessions that we'll be exploring together. This is an opportunity for you to really hone some skills, the skill of writing, if you choose to. Yet the beautiful thing about authorpreneurship is something that Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen taught me a number of years ago. And that's really that they're not the world's best writers. In fact, both of these gentlemen, Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, the gentleman behind Chicken Soup and Chicken Soup series, neither one of them wrote very many of the books. They actually had a system to get most of their content written for them. I realize that some of you on the call today might be very busy. You might be working in different businesses. Yet one of the beautiful things is, and we will be sharing this throughout the journey, is the ways for you to outsource some of the things that you might not like. In fact, one of the things that we've done in the last couple of years is outsource the writing of a number of the books. Entrepreneur X Factor is an example of one. We've just completed an ebook, the number one mistake that entrepreneurs make. And I just received it back from one of my outsourcing sources today. And again, it's a fun experience of looking for ways to allow your creativity to be expressed without the burden that you have to be perfect before you start. Yet, some of you still might not want to start. And so I wanted to give you this first guarantee. Something that I thought was pretty weird is that you will not make any progress if you do nothing, if you refuse to practice, if you blame other people, if you make excuses why you cannot do it, and if you expect to be perfect before you start. So this is the reverse guarantee that I thought would be an interesting way to start this session, because I really am inviting you to start writing today. In fact, even if you want to just write in our section here of type your message here, just start typing. In fact, today I'm going to be going through a number of the steps that will hopefully get you through some of the blockages. If some of you are writing a lot right now, fantastic. I know that Brian from South Africa has been writing and putting together some wonderful content in South Africa. I know that Angela from New Zealand has put together some terrific content. And I'm aware that our friend from Kuala Lumpur, Patrick, has also been looking at putting together a couple of wonderful books. So one of the things that I wanted to really address in the start of today was perhaps some of the reasons why people don't start writing. And so how about we start off with 5 approaches to overcome writer's block? Does that sound like a pretty good idea to start off the session, to really look at some of the writer's block, yet perhaps approaches to overcome, to go to the right, to go to the left, to go underneath, to go above, to be able to start the process. And that's one of the things that I'm really hoping that each one of you in the next, today, it will be great to just start today to get through some of these blocks. So let's start with number one tip. And this is to design a writer's schedule. And one of the things that this really gives you is an opportunity in your weekly planning is to put some times aside for writing. And this writing doesn't necessarily have to be the most prolific prose writing. It doesn't need to be dramatic writing. It can simply be putting a mind map together. It could be putting down a few ideas together. And one of the things that you can set up is a schedule, perhaps 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. Give yourself 20 minutes to 30 minutes as little time slots that can allow you to start writing. I'm suggesting a couple of magical numbers. One of the magical numbers is 333, and the other is 555. And this is the goal, to maybe write 333 words or 555 words in a sitting, in a 20-minute setting, in a 30-minute setting. It's not supposed to be grammatically perfect. It's supposed to be an opportunity for you to start writing. And when we go through the 5 key writer's blocks, you'll see how this comes together, because if you stick to it, by the end of a month or 2, you're actually going to have a nice core of content that can be utilized in some of your writing projects. This idea of making it a game. Writing is a game. I like to perhaps bring in the word intuition game. Can your writing start to help you become more intuitive? Can your writing, can it allow you to play the intuition game of writing, which would be this? You sit down, you start writing, and you might write a couple of paragraphs, and you will be targeting between 333 and 555 words. And then you take your whatever you've written, you check it with the word counter, and see how many you get. And it'll be incredible if you start tapping into your intuition, where you sit down and you write 333 words or 555 words or 444 words or whatever number that you're intuiting. You're actually using your intuition to see how many words you write in a setting. How's that for a cool little exercise that can, again, it can perhaps raise your vibration. It can, instead of being fearful that it has to be perfect, no, it's just you're going to sit down, you're going to write a certain number of words, you're going to check the counter, you're going to guess some words you wrote. And one of the ways that this process can really start allowing your intuition to find its vibration. And that's one of the exercises that I've done in the past. And I just think it's really cool that I do it with time, I do it with writing, I do it with different things to be able to play with my intuition. And even sometimes just guessing the colors that different people will wear. It's actually assisted me in what's called remote viewing, and that's seeing with the third eye and actually projecting and seeing, I wonder what my mom's cooking today. And I might have the feeling, I think she's cooking roast beef. And I could just give her a text or a call and say, are you cooking roast beef today? And it freaks her out, yet it's another way to develop intuition. And so that's one of my cool processes, that designing a writer's schedule is a key, is that in your weekly planner, start putting a little bit of time. If you're a morning person, give yourself that gift of 1 or 2 mornings to write. If you're at night, perhaps allow yourself the time. And I think this is a really important thing, is that when you have those writing schedule times, it doesn't need to be perfect. It needs you to simply put pen to paper or typing in your computer, or the latest, greatest is actually using your phone. And it's been amazing on the number of articles that I've done on my phone using notes. And that resource of notes on your computer can be so beautiful. It can be so vibrant if you allow yourself to design writer's time and to write. Number 2, this is so important in developing a good relationship with you as a writer, is what does have to happen for you to become your own writing fan, about you being a fan for yourself. This is about you. Again, you see in this slide, I can't do it. I'm not worthy. I must be perfect. I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me. I must not make any mistakes. These are things of the antithesis to a fan. That's the critic. And this is something that I'm inviting each one of you is to start looking at ways to be your inner fan as opposed to your inner critic. Is this an opportunity for you to look at ways to be optimistic instead of pessimistic? Can this adventure be something where you start to be a really good friend or even a best friend to yourself instead of your worst enemy. This is writing time, folks. This is getting your thoughts, your feelings down on a piece of paper or in a computer or in a phone. This is about creating and allowing some of your words to come in together as a sentence or as a paragraph or as some prose. This is about flow. And when I first thought about flow during this, putting together this content for you, it was, and it's a funny flow for me in this case, it was freely loving, ovulating words. So could that be a flow that could go where you want to go, where it's freely loving, ovulating words, and just allow the words to come out and allow them to come onto a piece of paper? And that would be something that could be a lot of fun if you allow yourself to be your own writing fan. There is time, okay? If you're hearing me and you're going, yeah, Dave, but I need to be a critic. No, there's a time for a critic in this process. If anyone want to type in, what do you think that time would be? When do you think the critic will come out? When do you think we will invite the critic to come play with us in the writing process? Anyone want to write something down there? Because there is a time for the critic, and that is called editing. And that is much later in the process. And it will likely be outsourced. So we will have the critic. They're allowed to play with us in this game, yet it's much later. It's when we've actually written quite a bit before we bring in the critic. So the next is, let's set measures and milestones and exceed them. And this is something that might be new to you. And again, I know a number of you have quite high standards, tend to be very good or perfect before you start. Yet in this case, I'm really inviting us all to set measures and milestones and exceed them. Hope you like that little picture. I thought it was quite a cute one to bring in here. And this idea, and I know a number of you might be saying to yourself, well, I have to write every day. No, there's 7 days in a week. And I am suggesting that maybe 3 or 4 of these days could be used for writing. In fact, maybe set that as your measure or your milestone, because then it lets you exceed it. Whereas some people might be saying, no, I got to write every day. And you don't write 6 days, and therefore you feel like a failure and you get unresourceful. And so the task here could be, for some of you, and this is, how about the task of writing at least 222 words in 2 sessions per week? You think that that's something that you could achieve? Sit down and write. Probably 20 minutes, 222 words, 2 times in a week. If you do that, you're actually going to have about a 90 pages of writing in the next 3 months. That's pretty cool. And so that's one of the things that I'm inviting you to explore, is to allow yourself to set the bar low and achieve it. It's one of the philosophies in this authorship program, in this Authorpreneur program, is to underpromise and overdeliver to yourself and see how that feels. And hopefully that's something that can really take your momentum and actually allow this momentum to really help the process of getting the content out. Next, and this is the part that I thought was perhaps the most fun, is that everyone on this call today is into some type of personal development, into personal awareness, into personal expression. And one of the things that would be very exciting in the masterclass that we've got right now, yet also in some of the one-on-ones, and also in ways that your content can be delivered, is to really engage, excite, and express your shadow. And this is the whole idea of, when you are writing, is to understand and start to be curious about some of your own patterns. It could be some of your own feelings, and write about it. And I know that there's a number of you who sometimes you don't feel very good about yourself. That's a great time to write. And I'm really inviting curiosity, and perhaps you would take the time to write about self-esteem, or you might write about self-confidence. You might start to have greater awareness of the records that might be playing you, that stop you. Just like when I wrote here that we're going to talk about the 5 different ways to overcome blockages, Some of you might say, great, because I got blockages. Well, wouldn't it be cool to write about your blockages? I know when I was doing my research for today's webinar, it was really about let's allow our saboteurs to have a voice. And so in this beautiful diagram by Carl Jung, it really is about writing about the shadow, the self, the ego, the persona, the outer world, the inner world. And if you allow this to start coming out, wow, I believe you're going to have some pretty awesome content that could have various appeal in the type of books that you're writing, in the type of poetry you might be writing, in the type of songs you might be writing, and that would allow your expression to be in flow. In this case, flow gave me another definition, and this is fall out lovingly weekly. And this flow of content, fall out lovingly weekly. And so allow yourself to express your shadow. And so if that becomes part of your writing time, some of that content could be gold. And so when I thought of flow, the ones that came out for number 4 here was fall out living words, or fall out loving will. And so I'm offering this idea for flow to you right now, because maybe you can come up with your own name for what flow could mean. So feel free to type something in. If you come up with flow, feeling, loving, outrageous or outstanding, and wondering, and allow yourself to write down just what does flow mean to you, and see if different people can write different things in the comments here that allow you to be engaged in the process of writing, be engaged in the process of getting excited, and be engaged in the process of expressing what that might mean to you. And that's one of the fun things that I found, especially in poetry, especially in writing some of the feelings of events in my life that turned out to be some of the greatest expressions of my inner being that I've written so far to date. And I just encourage each and one of you to allow that to occur. This is the big one, number 5. Might surprise you, because I think a number of you are in your mind, you've got one project you've got to do. And I'm going to perhaps give a different perspective. Beautiful, Angela. Verbal diarrhea exploding with creativity. All right. This one actually allows that definition to be engaged. And this is allow multiple projects to grow. Because one of the things that I found with people who don't get to completion or don't even get started with their writing projects is that they feel they've got to write a perfect book the very first time. And so as you can see by this garden, and this is the metaphor I'm encouraging each of you to explore, and even have folders and files that allow you to have 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 different projects on the go. And some of you may find this to be quite peculiar, yet in my research and in my personal experience is that by having different folders for different things that I want to write, it actually allows a beautiful garden to occur. And as you can see, we could have some zucchini and some tomatoes and some peas, and we could have some radishes, and you can actually have different projects on the go right now. So I know that Brian, for instance, again, you might be writing some of your modules for e-learning, yet you can also be writing your ebook, yet you could also be writing poetry. And so these could all have separate folders. They could be able to do some research, to be able to actually look at authorpreneurship as a business. And this is one of the things that I'll be sharing in the weeks and months ahead, is actually looking for ways to make money as an authorpreneur. And this comes from the recent projects that I've been involved with in infopreneurship, is that there is a market right now in the world that you can actually make hundreds and thousands of dollars marketing other people's products. And it's an area that I'm inviting each of you to start exploring, because there is this internet of things that's available to us that, as opposed to maybe the first project you've ever marketed is your book, how about if between now and, say, October, you've done a couple of campaigns? You've actually gone and started to build your list. you've actually started to apply some of the lessons that we will be sharing with you in the content that is part of the Authorpreneur program, yet you can have these projects that allow you to understand the business of authorpreneurship. I hope that's something that's pretty exciting. I know when I did the recent copywriting and using hypnosis was, again, it was a great little weekend project that earned a couple $1,000 just by practicing creative writing. And it's something that I'm inviting you to start exploring. And if you got questions about this, I'm really excited about sharing this because there's a trend right now that allows you to market even other people's projects so that you develop good marketing and sales skills. And these are essential to have a successful launch for your book. So allowing multiple projects to grow. And this is the idea of allow yourself to have these different projects. You might even tap into a yellow folder or an orange folder or a green folder or a red folder. You can allow colors to be part of this expression of you. Different types of books that you might be looking to write. You could have a book of poetry. You could have your personal story. And I think a number of you will have personal stories. You could be writing fiction. You could be writing a self-help book. Like we've heard, there could be a music book. There could be a martial arts book. And so these are different ways for you to allow your expression to occur and get down on paper. And yes, I do believe you can do multiple projects at one time. That's the 5 tips on overcoming writer's block. Yet here I'm also looking at under-promising and over-delivering. So let's talk about a couple more. Number 6 is about your environment, your creative environment of writing, your creative environment of allowing your creativity to flow. This could be writing in the park. This could be writing in the morning. This could be writing in bed. This could be writing in front of the ocean. In fact, I'd be curious right now if you could write or type a message, where do you like or love to write? Let's hear from everybody. Just if you could add a comment here, because I would like to really encourage you to look at different environments, because different environments might affect you differently. It might allow different content to come out. Writing with somebody, writing with a buddy, writing when you're sad, writing when you're happy. These are all different ways. Thank you, Brian. You like to write on the roof. Is anyone else? Where do you like to write? Or where can you see yourself writing? I know some people like to write in a cafeteria. I know Mike likes to write when he was in Greece at the bar. And so in the morning, sun on the deck with a coffee. Fantastic, Angela. Thank you. What other, again, strategies or environments can you see yourself writing in? And again, it'd really be great to hear from some of the people that might not want to write anything. Go ahead and start writing, please. The number 7, fantastic, Jazz. Thank you. In bed or somewhere warm. Fantastic. And again, and this is the idea of allowing yourself to write little bits at time. And yes, I find the one that's blown me away the most is definitely writing on my phone and just starting to write stuff in the notes and just see what can come out of that. It's just been incredible. Hopefully that can work for some of you. The number 7 is exploring your why. And exploring your why is really about exploring your little why. Why do you want to write a book? So why do you want to write? That could be a little one. It'd be a big why. It could be a medium why. There are many different whys here, and I would love to hear some of them. So why do you want to write? Exploring your why is something that in the material as part of the Authorpreneurship program, it really does explore your unique abilities. There's a 20-minute video there that can engage you and explore your unique abilities, explore your why at a deeper level. For me right now, if tears flow, and this is the funny thing about exploring your why, if your tears start to flow, please write about it. Some of the content that can come out when your tears are flowing can be some of your most treasured content. I'm looking at writing 3 pages a week, or book 3 writing sessions for yourself a week. That's what this process is about. The 7 steps to overcome your fears, to really get yourself with 2 or 3 pages a week that you're booking in with yourself, 2 or 3 or 4 sessions a week, and allowing that to be part of your process. Now, I'm going to take to the next section, which is really about any questions, how to work with the content and the workbook and you. And I'm really curious if there is any questions right now. And if there is, maybe just type something in, and I can even unmute you and allow any questions to be heard. Really, when I talk about the working with the content, there's a lot of content there. In fact, the reason why I brought it back into drip feeding it is that some people can get overwhelmed by all the content. And by having little modules, and I think Brian was one person who asked for all of the content, and that's great. I'm really curious if there is a question that you might have about the content or the workbook and you, and finding the way that you can best be served during this process over the next number of months that we're going to be putting together some of your content. And so if you want to ask a question, would anyone like to ask a question? Because what I will be doing after this session is we'll be passing you the next 2 months of video content. And even today's session, where there is quite a bit of content that I passed to you about the business plan of writing a book, about the why, about mission, vision, values, about unique ability, about the business plan and the budget. These are all parts if you were going to look at your book as a business. And it is. In many ways, you can plan the book. You can have a budget for the book. You can really start to allow this to be useful content in your development as a authorpreneur. Fantastic. I'm glad we've been able to get that value out to you, Brian. And again, this is what's beautiful, is to look at some of the blockages and allow yourself to engage them in a different way. And so in the first month, some of you will like to do this content. If I was to be specific on the content I liked, would be the why and the unique ability. If you're really into exploring yourself as a writer, the excellent chapter in month 2 about the branding and the book is the book template, and that's 2D. And if you go through that, it really lays out Mike's wonderful formula that has allowed him to write 14 books, because he really chunks it down into really wonderful bite sizes that the writing really allows you to have a book that comes out very, very cookie cutter like. And that's one of the great things that the book template does. Why write a book? Again, it delves into perhaps some of your hidden reasons why to write the book. And again, the analysis of brand and what's your brand are areas that as a business or as a best-selling book will start to really come in and provide you with some wonderful guidance. The way that I'm going to engage this is that you have these as your resources to go through the journey. Yet I'm not expecting all of you to invest. Look at the time. This is quite a bit of time. And what I would love this process to be is something that you can go and click. If there was something to click on here, definitely the book template. 22 minutes, it can get you to have a piece of paper that will really allow you to chunk it down. In fact, in our next masterclass, I will likely do a debrief of the first 2 months of content. Okay, so basically, fantastic. Angela sharing here about releasing a block. It's just amazing how the information flows, and I think that is very common in creative writing. Is there might be a blockage. That's why in engaging the blockages, I've attempted to be very engaging and even playful with it, because some people can stay with a writer's block for quite a while. And yet with this approach, it allows you to actually avoid the blockages, because I'd ask you to write about blockages. Just go ahead and write a little poem about being blocked. It might actually bring you a good laughter, and that's part of the process that I think would be a lot of fun for each of us. Are there any questions about the workbook? I will be sending the revised workbook to everybody, and also the next couple of months of content. And in our next masterclass, I will also be reviewing some of the key content in month 1 and 2. And I'm going to ask if there's any questions from any of our participants today. Because if there isn't, here's your action steps. I would really love to hear from you what was great about today's session, specifically. In fact, this is part of the process that I would like to get into, is for you to even be comfortable to start writing feedback, because that's going to allow us to have one of the key ways to get this content out is learning cycles. And if I get to hear what your preferences are, and this is what was great about today's session, tell me, please. And then starting the ritual of writing. So I look forward to receiving the workbook. Excellent. That will be coming to you. I have lots of bits of writing now, but I have no single book title or a feeling that I have a coherent journal. I feel like I'm floating in a sea of writing. Is that okay for now? Absolutely, Brian. I believe that in a sea of floating is perhaps the opportunity now to either bring in a outsourced editor, or the chapter that I would definitely be encouraging you to read is that chapter on the book template, and re-listen to that chapter, because that really allows you to see how some of your content can be reformatted, even repositioned to deliver some really good value in the structure of the book. Follow the 5 steps from today and start designing your process. This is the number 3 of the action steps. Number 4 is write for fun. Number 5 is review the workbook and the videos that interest you. I'm getting a great comment from Angela here, is I found doing Toastmasters as a way to test content and writing for small speeches has been very helpful in developing a writing habit. And I will thank you, Angela, and expand that a little bit just to let everyone know. When I first started Toastmasters, I used to write my speeches out. I would then create them into little cards, and I would keep the speech, and then the speech would then be reproductized into an article for the newspaper. And then I would take that article, I would send it to the Singapore Straits Times, and that's how I first became a published author. At the end of the newspaper, there's a section that my first articles from Toastmasters got put into the recruit section. They designed it, and it was a real buzz to have something like that published. That chapter or that speech then got reformatted again and became a chapter in my book, the Awesome Coaching Book. And so that's a reproductization, repositioning of content that it can be written once and it can be repositioned many times. So thank you, Angela, for bringing that up. And folks, I hope you can hear that, is that your content can be repositioned for an article. It can be repositioned for a blog. It can be repositioned for a chapter in a book. And hopefully that can be filling your number 4 of writing for fun. Number 5, review the workbook and the videos that interest you. And number 6, writing your thoughts, questions, poems, the exercises from the book. And then number 7, as an action step, engage, excite, explore, and have fun with writing. And that is today's masterclass. I would welcome if anyone has a question, I can open it up, or if no one has a question right now. Okay, I got a question here. Thank you. How many one-to-one sessions will I have with you as part of the program? Is it up to us to decide the frequency and set up the sessions? Yes, Jazz, that is part of your choice. I've just put my schedule up, and I'm going to give it to you all today right now. Oops. This is my latest schedule, and it will be for next week. Oops. So here you go. You can use that link to book up sessions with me for a one-on-one if you like. And that would be a way that we would be able to keep in touch. These master classes like today will be once a month, most likely the last Monday of the month, most likely at this time. Yet I'll be welcoming your feedback. And I really do appreciate if you drop me an email at coachdavederogers@gmail.com with any questions or feedback from today's session, because this is going to be fine-tuning to deliver the most value to you. And so that is a wrap. If there's no final questions from today, I will be sending the workbook out, and the next 2 months, actually I'll probably put the first in the next 2 months just so that you have it as a collection of content, and you will have the opportunity to review that and then book up for a one-on-one session if that's what you'd like to do, or meet you next month, last Monday of the month, for our next masterclass. Thank you very much, everybody. Have an absolutely great day, and wishing you the very best.